Hello and welcome to Dave's Model Workshop. Today I'm going to show you how to build a well, a North African well, which is going to be part of my Tunisian tiger diorama. So I've got my diorama. This cork here is going to be the well, so I've already made the groundwork around it. We've got a nice deep hole that'll get painted black. I'll get the cork in there to build around today. And I've also got some modelling clay and a jar full of interesting small rocks. So let's get started. So I'm going to begin by just putting a layer of clay around the cork at the bottom. So I'm planning on this one, we'll see how we go, to just make lots of thin sausages and wrap it around and hopefully build up height that way, and then surround the base, or surround the whole thing with bits of clay, bits of rock that look like they would make a natural well surface. That's the plan. Let's see how it works. So I'm hoping that this this clay, this air-dried clay, is going to almost act like plaster, like building materials, and like grout and keep the space, keep the stones in place. We will see how we go. That's the start. Let's keep working. So after 2 layers, yeah, look, it looks pretty primitive, but again, it's a Tunisian diorama, North Africa. I don't think they really got architects to build their wells, so I'm hoping that the rusticness is going to be authentic. We'll keep on going and we'll see. So I've got another round of air drying clay to splodge on. Like I said, rustic is definitely the word of the day here. Not quite sure how this is going to look. It might work, or it might end up looking completely play school craft time. We'll keep on going and see. More rocks. So here we are with most of the height done now, so I think any taller it's going to start to get a bit too tall to be realistic in 1/35th scale. All I'm doing now is rolling out one final quite fine round to go around it, which will be the tops. I'm going to try and make that a little bit more polished. We'll see how we go. So here it is after 3.5 rounds around with lots of rocks added in. I'm finding as the air-dried clay gets more and more hard, the rocks are sticking less into it. The more I add rocks, the more the ones beneath them are falling out. So I'm going to leave it as is. You'll notice I've added the 2 uprights for the well. Nearly forgot those, but yeah, definitely would need to use those. And that's just made out of a piece of old wood that I found on the street. All of this is just rocks from the local gutters. Charming. Anyway, I'm going to leave this to air dry overnight and come back to it tomorrow. See you then. So here's the well after a day of drying. I've stuck a couple of the rocks back into place with with PVA glue. And now I'm going to try and take the cork out using a corkscrew, and then put a final sort of rim around the top with some more of the air-dried clay and some more little tiny rocks. So we'll see how we go.
Play with my children.
And yes, my daughter is making some amazing air-dried clay things. So I've taken the cork out and I've put one final sausage of air-drying clay around the top. That's the interior, which will all get painted black. And I'm just going to really do a nice layer of rocks around the top there to finish it off.
No.
So right now I'm going through and adding tiny little rocks to cover up all of these gaps in the well where the plaster is showing through. I decided that it looked a little bit playhouse, a little bit sort of dollhouse to me, a little bit too rustic, and even once I painted the plaster, I think it was going to show through and just look a bit fake. So putting these rocks in one by one where the big gaps are, it's pretty laborious, pretty time consuming, so I'm not going to share too much of it with you. Just finding my next rock here, went down the road to a roundabout and just grabbed a whole bunch of gravel from the roundabout. So as you can see, it's time consuming, it's laborious, but the result is looking better. We'll come back soon. Okay, so that's the well stonework pretty much complete. Now I need to colour the interior so that it's not quite so obvious, and arrange for my top piece to go onto it. So let's keep on going. For the top piece, I've got some strip styrene from Evergreen, bent to shape, and those are going to form little sort of iron brackets that hold it on top of the two uprights. This is my cunning plan to spray paint the inside of the well. So I've just made a little sort of funnel with a piece of paper. So hopefully, can of spray paint, down the hole, and it doesn't get over everything else. That's the plan. Let's see how it works. And it worked! Yay! There's the interior, nice and dark. And the well is okay. I'm going to give it a wash of some sort of yellowy, earthy colours anyway. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with that interior. Whee! Here's the well with its crossbeam installed. So it's a twig from the park, some judicious use of bent plastic rod and plastic strips, and now I'll paint those up to be nice and rusty and old with my Rust Effect Colours kit. So this is a pretty good kit. Certainly I enjoy working with it. Some great colours. Let's make this white plastic look real. I'm just making myself a bucket to go with my well. I had a couple of clever ideas, but unfortunately the items I wanted wouldn't fit inside the well hole, so this is my alternative sort of scratch building piece of tube, a couple of bits of styrene on the bottom, trimmed and sanded. Now I've got some wire and a little drill bit to make some holes to make my handle. So necessity, mother invention. Well, here is my tiny little bucket that I made last night, Scratchbuilt. I've painted it black, can't really see it there. Painted it black, and now I'm going to do some dry brushing with some flat aluminium Tamiya XF16. And I also have here some twine string that I dyed with a cup of tea today. So used a tea bag, put it in a cuppa, hot water, didn't put milk in, dyed my string in the tea, left it out to dry, so it's got a nice aged look. So we are about to finish the well. So I'm just looping the rope over that little grab handle that I placed in there when I built it. I guess, looking at it now, I think the looping's looking fine, but I'm really going to want this to drape a lot more realistically. At the moment it's just the size difference, the size problem. It is sticking out way too much. You need much more of a drape than a poke out. So yeah, we'll see how we go. I think the solution to that is going to be a bit of white PVA glue just brushed over the top of the rope to give it a bit of weight. So I've mixed up some white PVA glue, you can see in the bottom right corner here, with a bit of water, and I'm trying to brush it on. Actually might have been easier to make up this solution and soak the rope in it beforehand, but I've started now, and that might have made it a lot more messy. I might have gotten dribbles all over the shop, so I'll keep going with this and see how I go. Let's see if we can drape a little better this time. Yeah, that seems to be holding its shape a bit more. That's good. So, you can see I've got a bit of a kink in that string, so I might need to take that out so that I get rid of that little kink right here. It's got a bit of a twist in it. That's better. Anyway, we'll keep on going. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. I've got two things left to do. So one is just a really light oil wash on that rope, and I might even put a little bit just between some of the rocks, just to bring out a bit of the detail in that. You can already see the difference it's making there. Certainly that rope looks a lot more realistic. So I'm using an oil wash here, mixed with terps, and yeah, look at the difference. Suddenly that rope has gone from string to rope. You can see a lot more of those gradients, a lot more of the sort of weave of the fabric in them. Much, much better. I'm much happier with that. And once this is done, the last thing that I will have to do is to add some pigment to the overall thing. So desert dusty pigment. The look I'll be going for, and I'll be adding this to the whole diorama, is, it's a very dusty desert environment. So at the moment it feels perhaps a bit too pristine. Look at the difference that makes. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, so once that's done, there'll be a lot more dust and dirt on the whole thing overall. And I might even put a little bit of rust pastels on that little billy can, the little bucket that's hanging from the top. But overall, we're pretty much done. So yeah, look at that rope, big difference. Once that's dry, I might do a little tiny dry brushing on that just to bring out some details. But overall, yeah, I'm very happy with that rope. So we'll come in for some close detail. So here we are, one completed well. As I mentioned, there is a little bit still to do, a little bit of dust using light pigments, but overall I'm tremendously happy with the result. I feel like it ties in nicely with the rest of the diorama. It feels suitably rustic North African. I'm just going to try and turn the whole thing around a little bit here for you. Get a feel for how it's all looking. Once there's some more vegetation, this diorama's still got quite a way to go. I've added one of the figures in there just to give you a sense of scale. But once this diorama's done, I think it's going to tie in really nicely. It feels part of it. There's a sign that's going to go next to it, letting the Germans know they could get fresh water here. And yeah, look, really it was very satisfying to do. I could have gone out and bought a resin kit, paid 20, 30, 40 bucks for a North African diorama well accessory, but really this was much more satisfying, bit of a challenge, and you can really tailor it to your own needs. I like excuse me, I very much like the rustiness on top. I think that adds a little something to the diorama, and yeah, it's just much more interesting to scratch build your own. Please do feel free to chime in with any questions or any comments that you may have, but overall it's been really satisfying to build, and although this is a very long video, I do hope you've found something useful in it and it's given you some ideas for your own diorama accessories. Yeah, really, scratch building and using stuff from the garden and the gutter out the front of your house, it's so much more satisfying than just buying something and it looks the same as everyone else's. So look, I hope you found it interesting. Please feel free to visit my blog at davesmodelworkshop.com, and we'll see you next time. Cheers guys, bye.